Hey traders, John Fortune here with this week's Weekly Forex Forecast for the 26th of November to the 30th of November 2018. As always, we're going to start off with the US dollar index and oil before running through a number of markets, looking at the key levels of support and resistance in the process. And we're also going to be highlighting some of the targets that we're going to be looking for in the coming week and also for the weeks ahead. So let's jump over to the charts and see where the money is this week. As always, we're going to start with the US dollar index. Now, last week we did actually come back down and we retested key area of broken resistance, once again turning support at the 96.07. As a result, we go into this week looking for further advances in the US dollar index. If we can get a pullback, and preferably if we can get one more pullback and a retest for anybody not already involved in dollar pairs from last week, this would once again provide a great place to start to look for bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 97.80. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and target 2 at the 98.46. Now, as we had that retest again last week, we are starting to look once again for further moves to the upside. We had a kind of neutral bias in the dollar last week as we didn't expect big moves. Now we could be seeing the next rally to the upside. So we do go into next week with a bullish bias on the US dollar. So the next market we're going to look at is crude oil. Now, crude oil has just been declining, and in fact, I was looking back, we actually turned bearish on crude oil in the forecast at 71.49, which was back on the forecast of the 15th to 19th of October. And ever since the 71.49 price, we've just been looking for trades to the downside in oil, and it has just been paying and paying and paying. And although at some point this will come to an end, we're just going to look to keep trading this to the downside until that reversal comes. We're not going to try and predict a bottom in oil. We're just going to keep trading it, and we're going to keep taking this as long as it keeps on giving. So going into next week, as we sit below the key area of broken support, looking to turn resistance at the 55.00. If we can get a pullback, and preferably because it will give us better risk to reward, if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken support, turning resistance from the past at the 55.00, this is going to be a great place to once again start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 49.40. And if we get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 47.73. Now, oil has been moving so much to the downside that we do have a third target down here as well in case we break through those first two targets. So if we do get a break through these targets here, we're going to be looking down towards the third target to the downside at the 45.62. So the first pair we're going to look at is euro dollar. Now we start the week below key area of broken support, turning resistance last week once again at the 1.14375. If we can get a pullback, for anybody not involved from last week, if we can get a pullback, and preferably if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken support, turning resistance from the past at the 1.14375, this once again is going to provide a great place to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 1.1214. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 1.1119. So the next pair we're going to look at is pound dollar. Now we start the week below key area of broken support, looking to turn resistance at the 1.29533. We actually had an inside week last week. There was very little volatility in the pound dollar. It pretty much went nowhere. But going into this week, if we can get a pullback, and if we can get a pullback and a retest, preferably of the key area of broken support, turning resistance to the 1.29533, this is going to provide the best place to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 1.2667. And if we get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 1.2588. The next pair we're going to look at is US dollar Japanese yen. Now we start the week above a key area of broken resistance, already turning support at the 112.81. Now going into next week, this is a place we're going to start to look for bullish formations and patterns, and we're going to be looking at initiating longs first of all up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 113.38. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and target 2 at the 0.23. So next pair we're going to look at is Aussie US dollar. Now we start the week below key area of broken support, turning resistance at 0.7296, once over here, again over here. And if we can get a pullback and we can get another retest of broken support, turning resistance, this is going to be a great place to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 0.7131. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 0.7085. Now, if we do get another pullback and a retest of broken support, turning resistance up here at the 0.7296, those of you who already know would have spotted that this will also be a bearish pattern known as a head and shoulders, which of course would be signaling further declines to the downside as well. So we have the levels, if we do get another retest here, setting up very nicely in line with this head and shoulders pattern in the Australian dollar. So next pair we're going to look at is New Zealand dollar US dollar. Now we start the week below key area of broken support from the past, looking to turn resistance at 0.68144. If we can get a pullback, and preferably if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken support, turning resistance at the 0.68144, this is going to be the best place to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 0.6690. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 0.6612. For those of you who like your trend lines, you can see that we can also put a trend line across the top here. And it would give us a nice area of confluence when looking for declines to the downside in New Zealand dollar. So next pair we're going to look at is US dollar Swiss franc. Now we start the week below a key area of broken support, looking to turn resistance. So the US dollar franc, even though we have a strong dollar, is structured to the downside. Now the reason for this is primarily because of the sell-off that we've had in the stock market recently. We're seeing money moving from what's considered more risky assets like the stock market into safe haven assets like the Swiss franc, gold, etc. So this is why we're seeing these hold up against the dollar, which otherwise is fairly strong. So as a result, going into next week, we are looking for a pullback and a retest of broken support, looking to turn resistance to the 1.00215. If we get a pullback and we get a retest of broken support, turning resistance, this is going to be an area we're going to tentatively start to look for further declines in the US dollar Swiss franc. And we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 0.9868. And if we get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 0.9827. Now, the fact that we have the US dollar structured to the downside against the Swiss franc, we can use this information in a number of ways. However, as a general rule of thumb, what this is showing us that if we are looking to short US dollar franc next week on the basis of this money coming into the safe haven assets, we just have to be super careful because we're shorting a strong dollar. If the dollar is strong next week and it does start to move to the upside towards the targets, the US dollar index, it may be a good idea to actually filter out any shorts in the US dollar Swiss franc, as it may not go anywhere next week. So just bear that in mind when looking at this market. So next pair we're going to look at is US Dollar CAD. Now we start the week above the key area of broken resistance from the past, looking to turn support at 1.3170. If we can get a pullback, and preferably if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance turning support, this is going to be the best place to start to look for bullish formations and patterns. We're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside and the target set, the 1.3370. And if we get a break through here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside and target 2, the 1.3420. Now, if we get oil declining next week as well, we're likely to see this weighing in on the CAD to the downside, and this should help push the US dollar CAD to the upside next week. So if we do get that decline in oil, if we continue to see those declines in oil, this should help out the US dollar CAD to the upside. And last but not least, we have gold. Now we start the week above key area of broken resistance from the past, looking to turn support at the 1.21275. Again, similar to the US dollar franc, you can see gold is actually structured to the upside here, which if gold is paired with the dollar, this is suggesting relative weakness of the dollar compared to gold. It doesn't necessarily mean weakness of the dollar, because the dollar can be strong and gold could just be stronger, and therefore gold will be moving or appreciating up against a strong dollar, even though the dollar itself is strong. So it's suggesting dollar weakness, but relative to gold next week. And what this means is very similar to the US dollar franc. You can use this information in a number of ways. For those of you who understand, for example, synthetic hedging, you can use that information for things like this. If you don't understand those kind of things, and it doesn't matter, there's nothing wrong with just filtering out the markets you think may struggle next week. For example, US dollar franc and gold, you're trading against a stronger dollar in these circumstances. There's nothing wrong with just filtering those out altogether. So if we get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance turning support at the 1212.75, this is an area we can start to consider potential longs in gold. We're going to be looking potentially up to next key area of resistance to the upside in the target set at the 1243.40. And if we get a break through here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and target 2 at the 1261.50. Again, you can see gold as a safe haven asset holding up against the dollar, even though it's strong, because of the decline that we looked at earlier in the stock market. So that is it from me for this week, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let me know by liking, sharing and subscribing. A big thank you to everybody who does that on a regular basis, and a big thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the channel so far. I want to wish you all an enjoyable weekend. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. You have a great weekend, and I hope you all have a fantastic week in the market next week. The only thing left to say is take care and don't forget to trade safely.